Hey AfterBuzzers, welcome to an all-new Twin Peaks after show here at AfterBuzz TV. Tonight we're going to be recapping Season 3, Part 9. We love you guys. We're so excited to talk about it, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello again, our beautiful Twin Peaks after show, AfterBuzzers. Thank you so much for tuning in to hear us talk about the crazy theories that we are going to. I am your host, Sam Davidson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SamD43. And as you all know, our, Twin Peaks connoisseur, Lex Michael, is here right next to me.
Connoisseur? I'll take it. I'll take it. I prefer a gourmet Peaks experience.
Well, I'm sorry, a gourmet Peaks experience. What are you going to do about it?
Oh, no, I'm describing personal preference. I like the term connoisseur. It was not a criticism of your word choice. But yes, it is me. I am here again with my giant teeth. And I am all over social media at the Lex Michael.
Michael Shirley.
Wow. And I'm Michael X Shirley on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. And we've got a guest
our amazing,
today.
one of our best friends, you guys, Lacretia Lyon. She is here. Thank you so much for being here.
Stepping in for Lisa Mason-Lee,
yes,
who's
she'll be
caught
back.
up in the red room this week.
Yeah, she's a little sick, so she's in the red room. But we have Lacretia.
Hey guys, I'm Lacretia Lyon. You can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one. And thank you for that warm welcome.
You are very welcome. So we have some more answers this week, as opposed to last week where we were in the abyss of craziness. Right? Am I wrong in thinking that I was very confused last week? Two weeks ago.
Who wasn't confused then?
I feel like this week we're definitely moving along to finding answers.
Yeah, like you said 2 weeks ago, Lex, it was the pivotal halfway through point.
Yeah, although technically this week is episode 9 of 18, so technically this is our halfway point, but it did feel like what an appropriate place, if we're going to take a week off, very appropriate place to do so after part 8 rather, where, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely needed that week off to sit with it and let it simmer a little bit.
How many times did you watch it?
I'm going to be honest, once.
Me too.
Once, and I sat with it. And I made a decision that a couple of these episodes I am going to watch again after we do our show, but I'm going to try and avoid doing so as much as I possibly can, because when this entire thing wraps up, I think I'm going to go back, and I know full well I don't have time for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to go back to the Twin Peaks pilot and watch the entire thing all the way through, all 3 iterations of Peaks.
You got to go back to Firewalk with me and start there.
Yeah.
You know what? You could, but I feel like because we play with time in Firewalk with me, I feel like you can actually, if you've seen it all, you can pick for yourself, depending on how you want to curate your own experience. Do you want the original run first, or do you want Firewalk first?
Well,
I like Firewalk first.
Speaking of playing with time, I'm just saying that this episode, I'm pretty sure, we have gotten some confirmation that we are playing with time.
Yeah, for the first time, and there have been a lot of theories, fan theories, especially if you look at, say, the Reddit, where you run the gamut of fan theories. You get theories that have turned out to be dead on, and you get some where maybe they will in time be proven true, but we're still not quite there yet. But one theory you see still being batted around a lot is this idea that maybe everything happening with Dougie and Janie E is happening somewhere completely removed on the timeline. And we haven't seen too much that would really lead us to definitively agree with that one way or the other. But what we did see tonight were some specific dates, and nobody necessarily spoke the dates out loud, but we see a couple specific dates written on a piece of paper.
I paused it, and I did, caps and underlining with bold on those dates.
And so we're going to jump around a little bit, I guess.
We're going to jump around a lot.
But because you brought it up, where we finally see Matthew Lillard's character return, and he identifies the face of the Major, Garland Briggs.
Absolutely.
He is told, okay, circle it, date it, signature. The date, presumably that day's date, is 9/20, September 20th.
Yes.
But a few scenes earlier, when we see Sheriff Frank and Hawk and Bobby open that capsule that was left by Garland Briggs, the 2 dates on the paper are 10/1, October 1st, and 10/2, October 2nd. And Frank Truman references the fact that 10-1 is 2 days from now, which means everything we're seeing with Gordon and Albert and Tammy and Diane and poor incarcerated Matthew Lillard is happening about a week prior to everything else.
FYI, guys, my birthday is October 2nd, so I'm basically part of this. No. I am a huge part of this. Let's start off with talking about, Gordon, Tammy, Albert, this entire situation. They are on the jet. I'm thinking Tammy is not as innocent and stupid. I don't think a lot of people are in this show to not be in the show.
Well, if you've read the book by Mark Frost, Tammy Preston is one of the narrators along with Major Briggs. So this episode brought up a lot of just like book highlights, and I thought that was really interesting. I know Lex has read it as well.
Read it, and I reread it again pretty recently. Yeah, we got we talked explicitly about the meeting between Major Briggs and Cooper that we did not see in the original series, but that preceded Briggs' supposed death by 24 hours or so. That's the note we end the book on. So it was really cool to see us come back to that moment.
It definitely was, and I love that they're doing all these callbacks. And for those that have not read the book, read it. I think it's helpful to understand this show because essentially this show is just talking nonsense.
Well, it is and it isn't, though.
For those that have not read the book,
right? Well,
it is, or just in general, don't have an understanding of.
That's why I asked you guys a couple of weeks ago if you knew anybody that was watching this new show that was new to Peaks, and I really wonder what that experience is like. If this is your first experience to this world in any form.
Yeah, because Redwood 138 brings up a good point in the chat that I noticed as well, is this episode felt like the most old school one since the new series started, especially with a lot of those Albert one-liners. Like, just made me a little emotional and miss Miguel Ferreira so much more because he was just killing it.
I keep thinking over and over, this entire series feels like a gift, maybe no element more so than Miguel Ferreira's performance. Especially, it's like I constantly forget that he is no longer with us. And every time I am reminded of that, whether it's me reminding myself or something. Tonight, there was a moment on the show where there's a scene with all of the characters that we've been following in that group, but it's like, all right, well, why don't, it's when they go smoke with Diane. We're going to come out and we're going to spend some time with you while Albert is indisposed. Now, this was shot early enough that it's possible Miguel Ferrer was not ill yet, or was not so ill that they were having trouble working his material in. And also there's an in-story reason. He's a forensics expert. He's probably spending time with the body. But I had that moment where I went, oh, right, he's not here anymore.
Yeah, and he worked right up until the day he died almost with NCIS Los Angeles. I mean, they pretty well just like wrote his character off without killing him off or anything because they knew, but it's just so interesting to see he worked that long. And Twin Peaks, I think, was done well before he, was on there for this season. But yeah, it's just interesting to just feel that way.
I love it, you guys. First of all, Lucretia. She's one of my best friends. I call her Lucretia for short. I think I'm one of the only ones. Yes. They have so much knowledge. We all have a lot of knowledge, but that, of course. And I think that a lot of these things are going to be coming into play for the rest of this season. I'm in denial that it's the series, It's just...
You also, too, really quick, because we're talking about Miguel Ferrer and how truly wonderful I think it is that we got this performance from him. There's a moment where they first get to the morgue and they're looking at the body and they're talking to this morgue attendant who we've seen a few times. And
I love her.
It's great to see these threads converging. But Albert, true to form, is giving local law enforcement all the crap he can muster, and he throws a line at her where he's like, well, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, when do you think he lost his marbles? And she throws a line back where it's, what is it? It's like about the time the dog got the cat's eye.
Which is a marble joke.
Yeah. And they don't say anything, but Albert and Gordon both quietly just half smile at her because they're like, all right, you can play this game too. And that was a wonderful, wonderful moment.
It was like a one of us
Albert doesn't
moment.
ever really play well with local law enforcement.
He does not.
Law enforcement. I feel like he thinks that they're just kind of like in his way.
Well, okay, so there's this Janie E. and Dougie / Dale moment where we hear, our country's song, America.
Where he sees the flag, which was also a wonderful moment, too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I liked that. That look in his eye. It was like a little twinkle.
I was I was like, okay, is this it? Are we ready? Are we ready for the real Dale to come back?
I think we're close. And I think we're close because we watched him non-verbally, and I'm sure that Dale/Dougie is not fully conscious of what it is he's taking in the moment. But he sees the flag. We hear America the Beautiful start to rise on the soundtrack. And you got it right, or maybe it's just me, but I like to think that Dale, whatever version of Dale is still in there, is remembering his duty as a federal agent, his duty to country.
For sure.
Then he's distracted by this woman wearing the heels, and somewhere in my brain I went, now we never saw Diane on the original series. Maybe this reminds him of Diane. And
it's like, this is what happens during puberty.
And if it doesn't, hey, red high heels, maybe this reminds him of Audrey somewhere in his brain, but it reminds him maybe of something that sparks a memory in a similar fashion, and then in the same unbroken process, his eyes are drawn back to that electrical outlet, which is obviously our conduit to these spirits.
Do you guys remember when I said this a few episodes, that the outlet, I'm going to look back. I never rewatch my shows, but I did say the outlet thing, and I feel like a couple of you guys thought I was crazy. And I'm just going to say that I think it's a real thing. It's space and time through an electrical outlet.
Yeah.
I definitely, when you said that, I didn't think it was crazy. But at that point, you
were like, I'm just not going to jump on board yet.
Well, it's just like, there wasn't really much for us in regards to the outlet. You know, like, we didn't really know what to make of it.
Well, I did. Actually, I didn't.
Well, then what do you make of it?
Well, I just knew it was important.
Well, we know from now multiple iterations of the show, I think it began in Fire Walk with Me, but I think they've really been playing with it in this, The Return. We know that somehow these spirits are using electricity to move around. That's why we get all of those shots of the phone poles, for example. And we saw that one room in The Return in episode, was it 3? When Cooper finally leaves the lodge through what looks like a giant electrical outlet and then appears out of what I think I only watched this episode the one time, but what I think was a regular-sized electrical outlet is where he emerges to take the place of our former Dougie Jones.
And okay, so Redfoot138 says red heels makes me think of the Red Room. So
yeah, me too.
Fair enough. You are very on point, I think, with that. Next, let's talk a little bit about Dougie and Janie E. I've had a lot of theories about time in this storyline. Are you guys with me at all, thinking that this is not 2017?
Oh, yeah. And they also mentioned how Dougie had been in a car accident 12 years ago. And I felt that was significant because we do know the good, the bad, and the Dougie. We've got all these Dales. Whoever made that meme, you're the best person ever.
Good, the bad, and the Dougie.
Yeah. And then we have that car accident with the bad Dale. And I'm like, maybe these are all tied in. And this is how... he changed from that into Dougie, and now he's sort of remembering who he was.
It does finally, if nothing else, explain why everyone around Dougie seems like, even if their patience for his behavior has its limits, nobody thinks it's so bizarre that we have to get this guy out of here. It's because, he had a car accident, and he's dealing with the fallout of that accident. This is to be expected.
Well, I think that it's obvious, I mean, you can't really disagree that everything is not necessarily taking place in order. But I wouldn't get too hung up on the timeline, because if you look at how the characters have aged, does it really matter if it was like, what would you say? Maybe it would go back to, 2015 at the most? Because that's when she said, I'll see you again in 25 years. Like, I really wouldn't, they've got laptops, they've got coffee, like
no,
in,
but
like,
they
these
have
little...
different kinds of laptops, different kinds of technology.
But
I know that
Yeah.
there was a phone in the scene with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and that's when you said something. You were like, "See, that phone looks really old and dated." But I think when I think of an old wiped clean phone, I think of an old phone.
Right.
From, like,
do you mean the bespangled phone he was using?
Yeah.
Well, that's just that. I read that as it's a burner, essentially.
Yeah,
he just had
for
an old crappy phone. So specifically, so when he was done, he could have Tim Roth. Tim Roth, by the way, finally making an appearance. He could have Tim Roth shotgun it.
Guys, I am gonna go on a ledge here. And what was it? T9.
It
was T. What was it when we would text on the flip phones? T980. What do you know what I'm talking about?
2005. 2004.
It was a thing that you texted with, and listen, guys, I'm gonna say this now. It's not. I think it's this what we're seeing as far as that storyline 10 years ago.
I think so too, because of the outfits and the phones, and as well as some of like the laptop in the scene. It was a ThinkPad, which is not something
They
you'd
still
commonly
do
use
make
nowadays.
ThinkPads, but that is kind of like an old school computer.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, here's why this doesn't track for me. And honestly, before tonight, I might have gone, well, I don't know. Here's why this doesn't track for me. Unless, and I guess it wouldn't be the weirdest thing we've seen in the Twin Peaks mythology, unless Doppelkoop has a phone that
Dirty
he can,
Dell?
that he can text in a certain code and he can call across time. He was the guy. He was the guy who called Patrick Fischler in Vegas and ordered the hit on Dougie and this other lady who we saw Ike take out in the previous couple of episodes. If he's the one ordering the hit and we presume that Ike is being arrested more or less in real time, he'd have to be calling across time for this to be taking place in a completely different time period.
And this is also a really big budget show. So if this really was supposed to take place 10 years ago, they would have made him look younger. He really shows his age in these scenes, I feel like. When you look at Dougie and when you look at Dale,
Dirty Dale,
Bob Dale, you know, you can see these men are the same age.
Also,
They're aging
speaking
the same.
of Bob Dale, me and
Oh right, yeah.
yeah.
We need to make like a
We need to
formal
make a public apology.
Yeah.
So me and Michael were watching on the TVs at AfterBuzz, and let me just say that it's, you know, weird lighting in here. It's never a thing, typically. It's fine.
Yeah.
But here, we were pausing, and we tried so hard. We were trying to figure it out.
Very sorry for all the uproar that we caused in the comments.
No, it's fine. But
sometimes we're wrong.
As Lex pointed out, you know, he's right as usual.
Yes, in front of the TV, Lex is like, "Yeah, look, Michael, you're wrong."
I said was the light as it projects onto these TVs makes, especially when the image is very dark, makes it a little bit difficult to pick up details. So I was just like, just stand right here.
Yeah.
But not like
it really. We after the show last 2 weeks ago, we had to stand in a certain place to see it. It was so dark and badly lit, and that is why we didn't exactly figure it out on
Way
time.
to plug our listening station.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
But so I do see a couple people in the chat. We're talking about them playing with time in a bigger way than showing us scenes out of chronological order, and people are referencing the fact that Major Briggs's body is not the age it should be if he died when he was meant to, or if he didn't die when he supposedly did. Even if he only died days prior, we're definitely playing with time somehow.
Yeah.
I still don't buy that what's happening with Dougie and Janie E, though it does feel heightened in a way that the rest of the scenes don't necessarily, or certainly in a different direction. I'm still not sold on the idea that it's taking place a decade plus in the past.
I don't know if it's that far in the past, but I do feel like it's on a different either plane, or there's something different about the Dougie scenes to me that don't fit in with the other stuff, and that's why I say it's got to be something.
To me, it's in a way that it is Dale that doesn't. Dale is a baby Dale, but as a human grown man, and he's going into these things, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he's coming into them no matter what time. Clearly, it's past 1990.
Yeah,
we can.
We're good with that.
Definitely know it was all. It was within the past couple of decades.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this interesting scene with Jerry Horne. What do you think? Lex is just, you know, going out.
What is it? Every single time it's like Lex knows what's happening. He frequently does not.
Lex's foot is going out of control right now, if you know what I mean.
All right. So I told you in confidence that my foot talks to me sometimes, and I didn't expect that we were going to air that particular piece of Dirty Laundry live.
Foot. Did you like that?
No, but see, okay, so okay, and I thought for a second I was like, is Mike running with this bit? I was like, no, okay, we're not running with the bit anymore, and that's for the best. So has Jerry, I guess are we picking up from where we left Jerry Horne?
God knows.
I think we must be, right? Because
I think
he looks
the
like
devil
he's.
knows.
I don't
Yeah.
think like learning disabilities like that go away.
But he looks. I just think he's
Learning.
crazy high. And what is
Yeah.
amazing about the mythology of Twin Peaks is
Jerry
that.
Horne. I
No,
was
do you
thinking
see what I
someone
said? I
else.
said he is stuck in between space and time, and I know I'm crazy. I sound crazy, but I really think that Jerry Horne is actually somehow stuck in between space and time.
It's entirely possible that in
Or
the
he's
mythology.
just really fucked up.
Yeah,
Well,
I
in the
think he's
mythology
really
of Twin
high.
Peaks, it is possible that marijuana is a gateway drug, not to harder drugs, but in fact to the Black Lodge itself. Though I think it is equally, if not far more plausible,
Where
that
did
Jerry.
marijuana
Well, that's how I
just-
normally watch this show. So
Jerry's
yes.
just balls high, I think. But I love Kelly Telly in the chat saying, I saw a correlation between the foot and the arm. And of course, how could you not immediately?
No.
Especially you get the subtitles with the weird voice. So it is entirely possible that Jerry, although I do think this is mostly a matter of Jerry just being balls high. Who knows? For all the talk you hear about people, say, marijuana is a mind expander and it'll open
Lex.
your mental doors. What?
That's how I normally
You're not
watch
an
this show.
anti-marijuana person.
Oh no, quite the contrary. But I'm saying, the what you hear, the through line you hear from a lot of the biggest advocates is it's going to open the doors of perception, et cetera, et cetera. For all we know, within the boundaries of the Twin Peaks mythology, maybe Jerry's mind got opened just enough that he's psychosomatically blacklodging his own foot.
Well, and I can tell you, because I've smoked salvia, that's what it seemed like to me, is that because I know I was like, oh,
Isn't that
my
what-
arm, I'm pulling me down. Like,
Isn't
so
that what
yeah,
put,
I'm pretty sure it was salvia.
Isn't that what put Demi?
I have smoked salvia too,
Yeah.
and it's fine. You get over it like in about an hour. But I think this.
Mine didn't last.
I don't think that a lot of things are brought up into the show for no reason.
Yeah, my cousin thought he was in another dimension. He was just laying between the couch and the bed going, ah.
That's what Demi Moore did. That sent her to the hospital. And
Well,
I thought it was Whippets
maybe you
that
guys.
sent her to a hospital.
Maybe this is its own Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
and David Lynch is there in the hospital. And he's like, Demi, it's okay. Like you're Audrey, it's gonna be fine.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course, Uncle Traveling Matt. Uncle Traveling in a myth. Thank you for the Fraggle Rock reference. I was not ready for that. You just made my heart sing. Uncle Traveling Matt in the chat says, but if two rides hooker Jade sends the key to Ben Horne in the mail, then that should dispel, unless the key took a decade to get to the Great Northern Hotel. And the United States Postal Service is not that inept.
It's pretty bad.
It's
though.
like sending a letter to Santa. It takes a while.
Yeah.
Is what I'm thinking. But Jade was the woman, the prostitute. Am I wrong in
two
saying?
rides.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jade give 2 rides.
Yes, Jade give 2 rides. So I think that it's all, we have no idea, you guys. No one has any idea.
The Horne I'm most excited about is Johnny Horne, which is
Yeah.
what I was talking about earlier when I said that I don't think like learning disabilities like go away overnight. But we got to see him grown up, running around, acting the same. And I was wanting to think, like, after he ran into the wall and after his mom was chasing him, that Audrey was gonna walk out with like a cigarette and be like,
But I
"Oh,
do,
Johnny."
I do think, given that we and I
That
think the
one-
entire internet has been going, "Where's Audrey?" all season so far. If something happens to Johnny where he
She'll have
accidentally
to come back to town.
right, or if she is in town, she's got to come out from wherever she's been. If something happened to Johnny, I also like that even though he made a dent in the wall, I like that the visual does somewhat echo the note on which we leave Ben Horne in the original series, where he runs into the side of the Hayward fireplace and leaves a bit of a bloody mark there as well.
Ooh.
Well, going back to Ben Horne, since we're just jumping all around tonight.
Yeah, let's just
And
do
you
it.
know the humming that he and Ashley Judd go Beverly
Yes,
in the
Beverly.
show. That humming. Do you think they're hearing Josie?
So that is something that occurred to me too in the week since, and maybe I would have said a handful of weeks ago. I would have said no because we know that Joan Chen isn't coming back. But even if Joan Chen doesn't come
doesn't
back,
have to come
They'll
there's no
reference
reason we
her.
couldn't.
Yeah.
There's no reason we could not allude to her character.
Yeah.
And even if it isn't Josie, we've seen plenty of evidence that the Great Northern Hotel is a place where these spirits can essentially, it looks like, come and go as they please.
Well, what makes you say that?
Well, specifically when Cooper is shot, the fact that the giant is able to appear to him in the room.
Guys,
I never have seen the Great Northern as being like a spiritual.
Though the waiter is apparently also the giant. Like apparently they are one and the same. So it's entirely
What?
possible that that's in the original finale in the lodge.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, one and the same. But if the waiter is also the giant, then I suppose it's possible that the giant maybe just hangs out in the vessel of this old waiter at the hotel.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to know what I think is the vessel? Is Tammy. I think that Tammy seems like a beautiful woman.
Nah.
No,
not a beautiful woman.
No, she is, but I think that she is a vessel for something. Because,
What?
Yeah, I do, because she talks to Diane, and she, I don't know, she says a lot of things. Let's see. She says that, let's see, has he found an oh no, that's someone else.
Good pod.
I'm just gonna say I have 4 pages of notes, and I am gonna call it out now. So when we end this shit, that I'm gonna be right.
What do you think? You think Laura Palmer is hiding somewhere in Tammy Preston?
Yeah.
No, Tammy Preston is, she's a secret crazy person, and she is there for a reason. And I'm saying that I'm not going to speculate on what she is or why she is the way she is.
I think she just works for the FBI.
I'm with you. I do think
she's Agent Scully. Let's face it.
Nope.
I do think if anything, I think Tammy knows her place. And I think Tammy is a lot more clever and a lot more insightful and a lot more adept than she is right now being given the opportunity to be. And I think that's exactly why Gordon picked her for this job.
I think she wants to be in with them, though. You could really tell when they're smoking.
Yes.
That she is not quite fit in with them because
she's giving them the alien cigarettes. Is what
The
I
Morleys?
said.
The alien cigarettes.
I literally think we were watching this, and I go, she's giving them.
Diane
alien
was
cigarettes.
smoking American spirits tonight.
Yeah, I noticed
Well,
the
let's
package.
talk
It
about
wasn't
Diane
Morley's.
for a moment.
Her clothes
So
tonight.
she is back. We love Diane.
Yeah.
Still, we're not sure what her past with Dale is.
Yeah, and someone made a reference to in the chat earlier. I'll see if I can find your name in a minute. But they talked about, Drake Avelia said Diane was wearing red shoes in the episode in the green waiting room of the morgue. So maybe that's what Dale was picking up. Or
Maybe we should
Dougie
pay
was picking up
attention
on.
more to her shoes
Yeah.
and see if she only wears red shoes.
Or, to the chat and to me, that has a very big imagination and are very creative. I'm just saying.
But I really do think, and I think I said this in our very first episode, I think the trap with a show like this, and I'm not just speaking to myself and to us sitting here, but I think in general, I think the trap that can exist is there are so many layers to what we're seeing, and there's so much in the way of theme to unpack and visual motifs and visual symbols to be interpreted. I think the trap you may fall into is looking for clues where there aren't necessarily clues. I actually think a lot of what we're seeing is a good deal more straightforward than all that.
Like slice of life.
It's just a question of
weirdness.
in what way do all of these pieces fit together. But I think the pieces we're being given, I at least have more or less been taking at face value.
The thing is, I don't take anything that Lynch does at face value. I think that he is inside of my mind and my soul, and I think he understands it, but each of us have our own interpretation of that.
I personally feel like he very much, besides wanting, his stuff to stand out, he likes to also make it feel like, if you were in like a grocery store and someone was looking at like every tomato and you just stare at them for 5 minutes, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's showing something different in a different way, a different part of life that usually people just glaze over.
And that's why I think it is so perfect that anytime David Lynch is asked about what did you mean with X scene or X visual, he always says, when he's told by the person asking the question what they took from it, he always says some version of, well, okay, that's interesting. We made it, and we know what it means to us, but and he's not going to tell you about it, but he says, if you saw what you saw and it means that to you, great. That's fantastic. You have that.
Yeah, I like that view because so many people get caught up in, not what it means to them, but what they think it means. And it's good that David Lynch is not so narcissistic that he's like, you didn't get what I thought? God. Yeah. And that's why I love him.
He's like, whatever it makes you feel. And I do love that.
And that's why, too, like, not for nothing, when you see, and I don't even mean where this show's concerned, I mean in general, the internet is a very combative place, and when you see people in talkback sections, when they see an interpretation of the show, where they're like, no, you're wrong and dumb, it's like, but why? Like, why can't I or you or they have their interpretation? It doesn't take away from your interpretation of what it is, and that, to me, is a big part of what makes fantastic art, and no one does it like Lynch, which then brings me back around to what a gift this show is.
It really is.
So let's go.
Such a kiss ass.
Because I like it? Because I genuinely enjoy it?
Lex is just
I feel like if
fanboy.
that makes me a kiss ass, if spreading the joy of something that I genuinely get into, if saying at length how much I enjoy it makes me a kiss ass, then like David bend over, I will pucker up.
All right.
let's
David
talk about-
bend over, I will pucker
Okay,
up.
you
That was
guys,
a good
Matthew
guess.
Lillard.
Yeah.
He is back. Hastings. Go.
Great
Shaggy.
performance tonight. That was a
So,
majorly great one.
I laughed so hard, and I know
You
it's not
did.
nice to laugh at when he's crying
pain.
and stuff.
But he's so good at it. And
But
like,
he is just the freaking best, and I love him. He has gotten caught in the space-time continuum, is what I think.
Yeah, given his what he's seen and what's happened to him, I think he gave a really great performance for someone that's kind of like beside themselves, that they don't know what's going on. And so, like you were saying, at times it was almost funny, but at other times it was like almost like heartbreakingly believable that like we know he's probably telling the truth, but they all think he's crazy. And how else would you guys act? I would probably be kind of like that too.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Ghostface, guys.
I just can't.
I'll be right back.
I can't stop thinking about She's All That, and when he's the real world guy. But I love him, and I think, again, there is some time situation that is...
You and the time.
Well, do you want to know
Morris
what?
Day and
When
that?
I'm right, you're going to have to...
I don't know. I don't know.
What am I?
You
what
were
are you gonna
right
have to
about
do?
Pretty Little Liars, but I don't know. I don't know.
And
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
Emily, everyone. Just
If they joke over my head. If they if he actually did see the face of Garland Briggs, which how else would he recognize the face of Major Briggs without a name,
No,
without
I
anything
think
but
he
a
saw
title?
all the stuff he said.
So are we to assume then, it looked like we are we to assume that they were actually able to somehow access one of the lodges where they found Major Briggs? He used the word hibernating, but potentially hiding out to wait for a time where he could fulfill his role in putting a stop to the evil that would potentially emerge. If that's the case, then yeah, we're definitely playing with time in a pretty big way, in as much as an age-preserved Major Briggs was able to speak to these other characters.
The thing is that Major Briggs is dead now, and who would want to stay at 70? Is my big question. So,
he probably stayed in his 40s. Like
That all's a little confusing to me.
No,
like,
they
how
said
all that
he's
happened.
70. It's a.
They're saying that if he was alive and he just died a few days ago, he would have been in his 70s. But he was supposedly died in his 40s, which is the actual age of the body that they have. But for me, I don't know quite what to make of that, unless he faked his own death and was hiding in another dimension.
Or traveling through space and
it seemed like wherever he was, he did not age. Whereas wherever Cooper was in this other dimension,
I don't think that
did.
he's in a lodge. I don't think that, because the way that they said that all these strangers were around and there were, what did it say, so many other people there. We never have ever seen very many people in any of the lodges.
Right.
Say maybe 3, 4 at a time. So I feel like
you think there's only like a 4-person
I think
cap?
there's yeah, maybe. I think you kind of get lost in all those rooms, but the way he was describing it, I was thinking that this is somewhere else we haven't seen yet. Because it also kind of goes back to in The Secret History when you hear about the log lady and Garland Briggs getting abducted by aliens. You know, I think that there's something more there. I want to think that where Garland was
Kelly
an
Telly in the
alien.
chat said White Lodge time passes extremely differently. In the original series, he leaves for 2 days and doesn't realize it. So again, guys, this is a group effort.
Matthew Lillard also references the fact that the Major, whose name he did not at the time know, said something about wherever he is now, he's trying to get to another place.
Right.
Yes.
So that could be hypothetically is in a lodge and he needs to get to the other lodge for purposes
God, maybe it's a
heretofore
blue
unknown.
lodge, guys. What the hell are we gonna do if there's a blue lodge? Let's jump into the... Sorry, I know there's not a blue lodge. Don't make fun of me. But I'm just saying.
I'm on board. I want a purple lodge. I want a rainbow lodge.
Screw you guys.
I
know.
want a teal lodge. I feel like that would be quite soothing.
I love all these people because they're my friends and they make fun of me. Okay. Ben Horne and Beverly, the Ashley Judd situation.
I think it's Josie.
What is going on here?
Coming around. Oh.
So they
Their
almost...
love. The little love situation
I said they almost hook up, and then they hear the
Yeah.
noise from the lamp.
I think it's Josie.
My favorite thing about this scene, though, because we didn't really get any more insight into what this noise could be, I love the fact that the Ben Horne of the original series would not have thought twice about cheating on his wife to go after this next attractive woman that he sets his sights on. This Ben Horne is a changed person. That doesn't mean he's a creature of goodness and light and nobility, but this is not the same man that we knew 20 some odd years ago.
He's just old and sad.
But he had an opportunity. He really could have taken advantage of that situation and slept with Beverly, I believe, having watched that scene, and he made a choice. He chose not to. The Ben Horne from the original run, I don't believe would ever have made that choice.
But don't you think he knows she's got some kind of game going? Like,
possibly, but he was involved with Catherine Martell for how long?
Yeah.
Well, guys, there's one thing I
think
skipped
that's
over.
kind of why he might not have done that.
You guys, I need to bring one thing up before we end and get into predictions that I skipped over. That was Bobby, and that he threw that thing.
Oh yeah, you were getting real into that.
I was. So Bobby threw what seems like a big joint. I mean, hella yeah.
Like an alien blunt.
Yeah, I think I called it an alien joint. But then he threw it, and they heard vibrations from it. And again, we are confirmed that this is possibly a space-time continuum. That's what I think. Why are you laughing at me? I actually think I'm going to be right.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with space-time. I think it's an alien object. I think it's something that, I mean, he'd shown it to Bobby when he was younger. He'd been working, on these types of cases, monitoring these numbers coming out of space. Like, I think if anyone would have anyone in Twin Peaks would have a piece of alien hardware.
It would absolutely be Garland Briggs.
Especially to put it in that chair.
Yes.
Like with that little switch.
I loved all of that. I loved the fact that we got, after the coordinates and the dates, we got a clipped piece of the Cooper from the numbers from the original run.
Notice that there's a half Cooper. It's Cooper Half. And that
Because of
explains
that and the
Dougie. Yep.
But
you
more
think
than
that
that,
means there's a half person running around?
But more than all of that, as much as I loved the nods in that respect to the original run, what I truly loved about these scenes was exploring, even posthumously, the relationship Garland had with Bobby.
With his son.
Which I
yeah.
think gave us one of the most beautiful and moving scenes of the original run, where they're sitting at the counter at the Double R, and Garland explains to Bobby this vision he had of his son being prosperous and happy, and it moves Bobby to tears.
Yeah, when I saw that, like, originally, I was like, that's shit. Yeah, right, Bobby's gonna end up, like in a gutter somewhere, but he was right. Yeah.
And this one, we got Charlotte Stewart back as
Yes.
Miss Briggs. This wonderful scene where she tells Bobby and Frank and Harry about what her husband had told her before he died. And that moment where she tells Bobby, essentially, your dad knew. You were so, when he told me this, you were so far from where you are now. And like, they both didn't know what was going to happen with Bobby. And he knew somehow that his son was going to be okay. And it moved everybody in the room. That's where we get, finally, they refused coffee at first, where we get the tension break moment, or the relief of like, how about that coffee now? And everybody's almost like dusting their eyes a little bit. Like, okay, let's do coffee. I'm not ashamed to admit, like that scene really got me. A little bit.
It did come full circle. A few words, guys. Let's get some predictions for next week.
Prediction.
I like that song.
Let's pull out our ever-loving,
the
all-knowing.
log.
Yeah.
The log always runs away from me.
Should we start with our guests?
Lucretia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I get to hold the log.
Yeah.
I predict that Dougie is in a different timeline, and since I've said it, because there's just something off about that particular one, and I think that Bob Dale, as they call him, or Bob Coop in the chat, he plays with time because he's Bob.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
All right, well, I got something that came to me tonight, totally different than anything I was thinking. But I think at the very end of the show, we got to see Sky Ferreira at the Bang Bang Bar. And she has this crazy rash. I see you guys talking about it.
Yes, the rash.
And that made me think several things. It made me think of the bug crawling out of that egg, kind of like creepy. You know, it kind of made me think about that a little bit. And it also made me think about that it's happening again. The whole
Laura Palmer
the
situation.
whole, like, what do you call that? The subtitle of the series this year. And I think Sky Ferreira's character might be our next Laura Palmer. Because I feel like there's going to be a death that's going to tie all of this together.
See, I thought Amanda Seyfried was going to be the next Laura Palmer.
Well, we haven't seen her in a while. Maybe.
On to you, Lex.
So one thing we didn't hit, and if we did, it was only incredibly briefly. Diane got a text message this week from our Dirty Dale. It is unclear as of this moment whether the two of them had been in contact before this point. It seems clear one way or the other that Diane is going to be pulled far further into this mess than she ever anticipated or ever hoped to be. Where we go in that respect, I'm not sure, but I do think I'd be shocked if we saw the last of these mysterious rashes as well. And beyond that,
they never go away. You know?
Beyond that, maybe my single favorite thing about this show is I don't have the first earthly idea of what's going to happen next week. And that is, in this TV landscape where if you watch enough television, you feel a little bit like even if you're really liking the show, you can predict where these rails are going to take you. I don't know.
This show is literally off the rails.
It's fantastic.
On that note, okay, so I am thinking that we are doing a bunch of different time continuums with all of the different Dales. So I think that the OG Dale and then Dougie Dale and then Dirty Dale, we're all talking about different timelines. And we're seeing them, and I really can't tell you guys when or what that is, but I'm thinking that they are all at different times. That's all I got for you guys.
And Dirty Dale is the darkest timeline.
And I think he also is Bob. The Dirty Dale is Bob.
Haven't we established that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yes, but...
They're gonna, like, freak out at you if you even question that.
He is Bob.
God, guys, he's Bob. The guy 2 weeks ago was Bob.
If you don't know who it is,
one last thing. This is not
Bob.
a prediction. This is just a moment I really, really liked. When Gordon Cole walks out to meet Diane to have a cigarette with her, it looks like in this take, there's a moment where it looks like David Lynch is walking out and the door bumps him, and it looks like an accident. And David Lynch continues to play the scene, but very quietly makes this face like he's laughing to himself about it. Love that. More of that.
Yeah.
Well, and a bunch of people in chat say that Diane is working for the Bad Dale, and that it's a big scheme for us, probably us watchers, you know.
It's obvious she's been lying. She knows he's alive.
She's been lying. She's a bit traumatized, but guys, we love you no matter if you love us or not. We are all in this together. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining us, Lucretia. One more time, where can everyone find you on social media?
All right, guys, I'm Lacretia Lyon. So you can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one.
And I'm Michael X Shirley on Instagram and Twitter, and there are several of me out there, but
sorry.
you can find me at Michael X Shirley.
I'll go one step further. I'm a dime a dozen, folks, but you can find this one at the Lex Michael all over social media.
I'm basically like a Dougie Dale, Sam Davidson over here. There's probably a million of me, so follow them and let me know what's happening. Sam Davidson, SamD43, Twitter and Instagram. I love you guys. I haven't even told Lex yet. I'm out next week. He's going to be leading.
What? Don't do this to the nice people.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I think your guys are going to be
I'll
happy.
be here for you.
Yeah. Guys,
Ooh.
we love you.
It's going to be a ride, kids.
It's going to be a ride. Thank you so much for tuning in. Comment, rate, subscribe. We'll see you next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
I am not your foot!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.